Welcome to the Conspiracy Theory Iceberg, a series that takes you deep into a world where the line between fact and fiction blurs, and the truth is often stranger than fiction. Whether you're a skeptic or a believer, prepare to question everything you thought you knew. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe and share this video with your various co-conspirators. The conspiracy theory that China's population is significantly lower than its official figures claim has gained significant traction online in recent years. Despite the official data stating that China has a population of over 1.4 billion, skeptics argue that the real number may be much lower, possibly by hundreds of millions. This theory is driven by discrepancies in population data, inconsistencies in census reporting, and the secretive nature of the CCP. One of the key elements fueling this theory is the lack of independent verification of China's population data. The National Bureau of Statistics in China releases demographic figures, but external sources are often left to trust the numbers without any way to cross-check. This lack of transparency is especially concerning, as China's data is closely tied to political and economic motivations. Throughout its history, the CCP has been known to manipulate data to suit its needs, whether in terms of crop yields during the Great Leap Forward or recent statistics related to a certain event. One example of the skepticism surrounding China's population numbers is the birth rate statistics. In 2020, the NBS reported that China's population increased by 12 million births. This figure seemed implausible considering the movement restrictions and other restrictions at the time, as well as an overall declining fertility trend in China. Another historical example that adds weight to this theory is the Great Chinese Famine, which took place between 1959 and 1961. The famine caused tens of millions of deaths, due to a combination of disastrous agricultural policies, political meddling, and natural calamities. Official figures from China during that period were grossly inaccurate, with some estimates stating that the population losses were underreported by as much as 30 million. This historical manipulation of population data sets a precedent that modern-day China could similarly alter demographic statistics. A critical aspect of the conspiracy theory lies in China's rapidly aging population and shrinking workforce. For decades, the one-child policy, enforced from 1979 to 2015, drastically reduced birth rates. Largely because of this, China is facing a demographic crisis where the proportion of elderly people is growing, while the number of young people entering the workforce is dwindling. Adding to the speculation are regional and local discrepancies in population reporting. Some analysts suggest that local governments inflate population numbers to secure more funding from the central government, which allocates resources based on population size. This creates an incentive for local officials to overstate population figures, contributing to an inflated national total. With no independent checks, these local reports become part of the official national census, further muddling the accuracy of the data. The declining fertility rate in China, now one of the lowest in the world, is another factor that raises doubts about the official population figures. China's fertility rate is amongst the lowest in the world, with only countries such as South Korea being lower. The government's own predictions point toward a shrinking population in the very near future. Some official estimates suggest that by the end of the century, China's population could be as low as 587 million. If these projections are accurate, then current population figures could already be significantly overstated. But this conspiracy theory goes deeper than just the CCP inflating their numbers to continue driving internal and external investment in the Chinese economy. The American military-industrial complex has long played a critical role in shaping perceptions of global threats. By exaggerating the power and threat posed by China, the MIC ensures continued high levels of defense spending, which in turn benefits defense contractors and everyone connected to the military apparatus. One key tactic employed by the MIC is to present China as an ever increasing existential threat, justifying larger defense budgets year after year. This narrative is critical for sustaining the high levels of funding that the U.S. Department of Defense allocates to defense contractors. Without the image of a formidable opponent like China, it would be challenging to persuade taxpayers and Congress to support defense budgets that exceed $700 billion annually. The MIC ensures that this narrative is deeply ingrained through a variety of channels. A significant part of this strategy involves funding think tanks and analysts who push for increased defense spending in response to China's rise. These think tanks often dominate national security discussions, providing policymakers and the media with a skewed view of the China threat. This manipulation shapes elite discourse, making it difficult for alternative perspectives to gain traction. A significant element of maintaining this threat is the idea that China has a much larger population than the United States, and this will remain this way. According to this narrative, China's GDP per capita will slowly rise to that of the United States, which will leave America in the dust economically. However, this is predicated on China maintaining this large population and not experiencing massive declines. Conspiracy theorists cite as evidence the fact that population projections indicate that the United States and China have a chance of reaching virtual population parity by 2100. Tulpas and tulpamancy are practices now largely associated with both modern mysticism and certain internet subcultures. A tulpa is described as a mental construct or thought form, which practitioners believe can take on an independent existence, with the ability to think and act autonomously from its creator. The term tulpa originates from Tibetan Buddhism, where it refers to a manifestation of thought capable of assuming a physical form or presence. This concept is linked to the broader Buddhist notion of emanation, where beings can manifest as physical projections of consciousness. In this tradition, creating a tulpa is a spiritual endeavor involving meditation, concentration, and mastery over the mind. However, in modern Western culture, the term has deviated significantly from its religious roots. The westernization of the tulpa concept largely began with French spiritualist Alexandra David-Néel, who documented her experiences with Buddhist monks creating tulpas during her travels in Tibet. David-Néel claimed that she had successfully created a tulpa in the image of a friendly monk like Friar Tuck, which later became autonomous and had to be dissolved when it became unruly. The Western version of tulpas diverged from the disciplined Buddhist practice, emphasizing the idea that individuals could generate entities through imagination or desire. This shifted the tulpa from a spiritual tool for enlightenment into a mental phenomenon that could manifest through individual willpower without requiring the same spiritual discipline. In the early 21st century, tulpas gained a new life in online communities. Starting on platforms like 4chan and Reddit, practitioners, who call themselves tulpamancers, began experimenting with creating sentient companions through visualization and meditation techniques. The term tulpamancy refers to this practice of deliberately creating and interacting with these autonomous thought forms. Unlike their Tibetan counterparts, modern tulpas are seen less as spiritual exercises and more as psychological companions. These online communities are primarily composed of young, lonely, and creative individuals, many of whom report significant social anxiety. These factors contribute to the appeal of tulpamancy, as it provides a way to cope with isolation by creating a mental companion capable of communication and interaction. Interestingly, studies indicate that individuals with neurodivergent conditions such as autism are more likely to be involved in tulpamancy. Surveys of tulpamancers show that the vast majority believe their experiences with tulpas have been positive, offering companionship and reducing feelings of loneliness. Although some tulpas are said to be purely imaginary, others are described as sentient and able to communicate with their creators in ways that feel independent of the creator's thoughts. This belief in tulpa autonomy is central to the practice, as many tulpamancers insist that their creations possess their own personalities, preferences, and even free will. The psychological mechanisms behind tulpamancy are a subject of considerable interest. Many suggest that creating a tulpa may be a form of self-hypnosis or dissociative practice, where individuals tap into different aspects of their own psyche and externalize them. Notably, some tulpamancers report experiencing symptoms of psychosis, including visual and auditory hallucinations, as well as delusions brought on by the tulpa. Further, some fandoms have sought to create tulpas of their favorite characters in order to have relationships with these characters. This has been most common in the My Little Pony fandom, where pony tulpas serve as companions in all senses of the word for some individuals. Some conspiracy theorists argue that tulpamancy is not necessarily just esoteric knowledge from Tibet, but perhaps something much more sinister. They argue tulpamancy encourages individuals to shift their focus entirely inward, removing them from active participation in society. By fostering the creation of autonomous internal companions, practitioners may become absorbed in their internal worlds, prioritizing interactions with tulpas over real-world relationships. This inward focus can create a mental isolation, drawing people away from community engagement and weakening social bonds. As individuals invest emotional and cognitive energy in tulpas, they may gradually disengage from collective action or societal issues, effectively reducing their influence and presence in public life. By centering all experience and interaction within one's mind, tulpamancy could serve as a method to neutralize neurodivergent critical thinkers who may challenge the elite. The Montauk Project is a conspiracy theory alleging that the U.S. government conducted secret experiments at Montauk Air Force Station, also known as Camp Hero, in Montauk, New York. These experiments purportedly involved mind control, time travel, teleportation, and contact with extraterrestrial life. The Montauk Project theories gained significant attention in 1992 with the publication of The Montauk Project: Experiments in Time by Preston Nichols and Peter Moon. Nichols claimed that he had repressed memories of his involvement in the experiments, which he later recovered. He alleged that the project grew out of the 1943 Philadelphia experiment. This is an event where the U.S. Navy supposedly rendered the USS Eldridge invisible and accidentally teleported it, creating a wormhole to the future. One of the most riveting aspects of the Montauk Project is the claim of time travel. Nichols described a device called the Montauk Chair, which supposedly used electromagnetism to enhance psychic abilities, enabling subjects to manipulate time. Duncan Cameron, a supposed participant, claimed that he could manifest objects with his mind while using the chair. The project allegedly conducted numerous time travel experiments, sending individuals to different historical periods and even distant planets. The Montauk Project is also linked to mind control experiments. These included techniques for brainwashing and remote influencing, reminiscent of the CIA's MKUltra program. Nichols claimed that these experiments aimed to fracture individuals' minds to reprogram them, using methods such as extreme temperature changes, food deprivation, and psychedelic drugs. Theories about the Montauk Project also involve interdimensional portals and extraterrestrial encounters. Some accounts suggest that the experiments opened portals to other dimensions, allowing for contact with alien entities and the exchange of advanced technologies. These stories are often connected to reports of underground facilities at Camp Hero, which conspiracy theorists believe were used to house these portals and conduct further research. The Montauk Project has significantly influenced popular culture, most notably the Netflix series Stranger Things. Initially titled Montauk, the show incorporates elements of the conspiracy, such as secret government experiments and a parallel dimension. This connection has helped to keep the Montauk Project in the public eye, introducing its bizarre narrative to new audiences. Despite the extensive lore surrounding the Montauk Project, concrete evidence remains elusive. Skeptics point out the inconsistencies in witness testimonies and the absence of physical proof. Critics argue that the lack of verifiable data undermines the credibility of the conspiracy. However, proponents suggest that the U.S. government has covered up the project, drawing parallels to verified historical instances of secretive operations, such as Project MK Ultra. They believe that classified documents and buried facilities hold the truth about the Montauk Project, which remains hidden from public scrutiny. Other conspiracy theorists argue that the Montauk Project is a psyop intended to redirect attention from verifiable projects like remote viewing. Graham Hancock is a British author best known for his controversial theories about ancient civilizations and lost histories. His works, such as Fingerprints of the Gods and Magicians of the Gods, have become popular among readers interested in both standard history and alternative outlooks on history. His ideas have been widely criticized by mainstream scholars and archaeologists as pseudo-archaeology and pseudoscience. One of Hancock's primary assertions revolves around the idea of a highly advanced Ice Age civilization that contributed to the development of known ancient societies. According to Hancock, this civilization was obliterated by a cataclysmic event that followed the end of the last Ice Age around 12,000 years ago. Hancock connects this cataclysm with the many flood myths found in ancient cultures, such as the biblical story of Noah's Ark and the flood described in the Epic of Gilgamesh. One of the key elements of Hancock's narrative is his belief in a global diffusion of knowledge that occurred after this catastrophic event. Survivors from the lost Ice Age civilization are thought to have spread their knowledge to hunter-gatherer communities around the world, which eventually evolved into the earliest known civilizations. This theory is an example of hyperdiffusionism, which posits that cultural innovations, such as pyramid building, originated from a single source and spread across the globe. Further, he has cited archaeological sites like Göbekli Tepe, an ancient site in modern-day Turkey, to argue that advanced construction techniques existed far earlier than traditionally believed. Hancock's theory also ties into his critique of the academic establishment, particularly archaeologists. In his view, mainstream archaeology has failed to adequately investigate these possibilities due to an unwillingness to break from established interpretations of history. He believes that by focusing solely on established historical narratives, archaeologists are ignoring the evidence that points to a much older and advanced civilization. Also, I'll be talking more about Graham Hancock's specific ideas and conspiracy theories that swirl around them in later episodes, so don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell. Operation High Jump was a large-scale U.S. Navy operation led by Rear Admiral Richard E. Byrd. According to the official explanation, it aimed to establish American leadership in Antarctic research and involved one of the largest naval expeditions in history to accomplish this task. Task Force 68, which was the official designation for Operation High Jump, included almost 5,000 personnel, 13 ships, and 33 aircraft. The operation began in August 1946 and was completed by early 1947. The U.S. Navy wanted to train personnel and test equipment in cold weather conditions, critical for future military endeavors in polar regions. Additionally, a key goal was to consolidate American sovereignty over certain Antarctic territories, especially following World War II, when global competition between the US and the USSR intensified. This reflected a broader U.S. interest in ensuring that it had a significant presence in the remote continent, which had gained strategic importance due to its geographic position and untapped resources. Furthermore, Operation High Jump sought to expand American scientific knowledge of the region by conducting aerial mapping, meteorological observations, and geological surveys. The expedition included scientific staff from multiple branches of the U.S. government from many different specialties. Task Force 68 was divided into multiple groups with specific roles and objectives. The central group reached the Bay of Whales, the same area where Byrd had established Little America during his previous Antarctic expedition. Their mission was to build a permanent base, Little America 4, which would serve as a hub for further exploration and scientific study. The Eastern Group, tasked with flying aerial reconnaissance missions, reached Peter I Island in December 1946. This group encountered severe weather conditions that hampered their operations, a common challenge throughout the mission. Another group, the Western Group, began launching reconnaissance aircraft by December 24, 1946, from the USS Currituck. Operation High Jump made significant contributions to U.S. understanding of Antarctica. The scientific data collected included vital information on weather patterns, geological formations, and potential natural resources. The operation mapped significant previously uncharted areas, providing the U.S. with strategic advantages in polar research. Interestingly, and related to the conspiracies about this operation, the United States suffered just shy of a dozen official casualties over the course of the mission. In the official narrative, these casualties are attributed to weather events and machine malfunctions. While Operation High Jump was officially a scientific endeavor, its military implications were undeniable even in the official sources. Byrd himself hinted at the military significance of the operation in an interview with a Chilean newspaper, warning that future wars could involve attacks from the polar regions. Notably, this commentary, which was not intended for American audiences, has led to some of the speculation that will be discussed shortly. Further, a significant portion of the U.S. Navy was involved in the operation in some way, including aircraft carriers and submarines. While this was supposed to be a scientific expedition, conspiracy theorists have questioned the role of aircraft carriers in scientific expeditions. Despite Operation High Jump having an obvious military component, anticipating future polar warfare, this was covered up at the time. Operation High Jump, to put it mildly, has been the subject of numerous conspiracy theories over the years. These conspiracy theories range from secret bases of the Third Reich to encounters with extraterrestrial beings and advanced technologies. While none of these claims are substantiated by evidence, they have captured the imagination of conspiracy theorists and the general public alike. One of the most persistent conspiracy theories is that Operation High Jump was launched to destroy a secret German base in Antarctica. Proponents of this theory suggest that during World War II, Germany established a hidden base in the continent, where they continued to operate after the war's end. This idea stems from Germany's interest in Antarctica in the late 1930s, when they sent an expedition to the region. The German expedition, which mapped parts of Antarctica and claimed territory for the Third Reich, officially did not leave any lasting mark on the landscape beyond a minor outpost which was abandoned. However, conspiracy theorists argue that a more extensive base was built and that it continued to function after the surrender of Germany. The theory also ties into the belief that top officials may have escaped to this hidden Antarctic base at the war's conclusion. According to this narrative, Operation High Jump was secretly designed to locate and destroy this base. Another prominent conspiracy theory surrounding Operation High Jump involves claims of extraterrestrial encounters. Some theorists argue that the U.S. Navy's true objective was to investigate alien activity in Antarctica. According to this narrative, the U.S. military encountered advanced technology, either extraterrestrial or developed by the Germans in collaboration with aliens. The theory suggests that Byrd's fleet suffered mysterious losses, including aircraft destroyed by unknown forces, possibly involving flying saucers. This theory is often connected to Byrd's supposed statements, where he hinted at objects which can move between the North and South Pole. Skeptics dismiss this and say that these claims are derived from Byrd's warnings about the dangers posed by hostile aircraft from the polar regions. Another theory linked to Operation High Jump suggests that the mission was related to the hollow Earth theory. According to this belief, the Earth is hollow, with large entrances located at both poles leading to a subterranean world inhabited by advanced civilizations or alien beings. Conspiracy theorists speculate that Byrd's mission was aimed at discovering and exploring one of these entrances. The fact that Operation High Jump was cut short due to worsening weather conditions has also fueled conspiracy theories. Some claim that the early termination was due to encounters with hostile forces or advanced technologies that forced the U.S. Navy to retreat. Proponents of this idea argue that Byrd and the Navy were deliberately concealing the true reason for the expedition's abrupt end. However, official reports indicate that the worsening Antarctic winter was the primary reason for the mission's early conclusion, and as you know, official reports are definitely always true. Hey everyone, it's Jimmy taking a few seconds to promote my work. Remember to like and subscribe, and also share this video with your friends and family. Sharing the video with your friends and family is one of the biggest ways you can help my channel grow. Also, you can support the channel on the YouTube membership and the Patreon for as little as $1 a month. Pumapunku is a remarkable example of pre-Columbian architecture that continues to baffle archaeologists and engineers alike. Situated near Lake Titicaca, at an altitude of over 12,000 feet, Pumapunku showcases extremely sophisticated stonework many believe was beyond the capacity of humans at the time. Built between approximately 500 and 600 AD, this site was part of the Tiwanaku civilization, one of the most advanced cultures in South America prior to the rise of the Inca. The architectural style found at Pumapunku is characterized by large, finely cut stones, which are notable for their extreme geometric precision. Some blocks weigh over 130 tons and were transported from quarries several miles away, with red sandstone being sourced from about 15 miles away. Additionally, some minerals for the stone facing and carvings came from quarries located over 60 miles away. The most famous aspects of Pumapunku is its incredibly large stone blocks, many of which feature precise cuts and intricate carvings. The so-called H blocks have become iconic in discussions of the site's engineering, with each block having around 80 geometrically perfect faces. These blocks were cut in such a way that they fit together like a puzzle, creating interlocking joints that contributed to the structure's durability without the use of mortar. Some stones even feature small drilled holes that were likely used to join stones together using metal clamps. The exact methods used to transport and assemble these massive stones remain a subject of significant speculation. Various conventional theories suggest that ramps, inclined planes, or even rudimentary rollers might have been used. However, without the wheel or advanced machinery, these methods would have required a highly organized and skilled workforce. The intricate design and craftsmanship seen at Pumapunku, combined with the sheer size of the blocks used, have led some to speculate about the use of advanced technology or external influence. While popular theories involving ancient aliens have gained traction amongst conspiracy theorists, mainstream archaeology attributes the construction of the site to the highly skilled Tiwanaku people. However, ancient aliens theorists do not necessarily discount that the Tiwanaku people were highly capable and skilled. Most argue that the technologies to create this structure quite simply could not have existed without external intervention. The conspiracy theory that the movie The Truman Show is predictive programming or more finds its roots in a growing skepticism toward reality itself, as well as distrust of the elite. Also, if you're new to conspiracy theories or to this series, let me very briefly explain the concept of predictive programming. This is a theory suggesting that media, including films and television, subtly conditions the public to accept future societal changes or events. Some theorists claim it primes people for real-life developments through fiction, shaping expectations and behaviors. Though the 1998 film The Truman Show is fictional, the premise of a man living unknowingly in a constructed reality, controlled by an omnipresent media machine, has resonated deeply with some individuals. Some individuals have become so attracted to this idea that they believe that they themselves are part of a real-world version of the show. This belief is known as the Truman Show delusion, and has been documented by psychologists, particularly in individuals with certain mental health conditions. At the core of this conspiracy theory is the idea that one's entire life is fabricated for the entertainment of a mass audience. Individuals who subscribe to this belief are convinced that everything around them, including all their relationships, are meticulously orchestrated by a hidden group of producers or actors. In this worldview, every aspect of their existence is monitored by cameras, just as Truman Burbank was unknowingly the star of his own television show in the film. Some of those who believe they are trapped in a Truman-like scenario have gone so far as to try and escape their perceived reality. This has included cases of individuals traveling to major landmarks to confront what they imagine are set pieces or boundaries, as noted in real-world case studies of the delusion. Another believed that climbing the Statue of Liberty would free him from his life being broadcast. However, it's important to note that most conspiracy theorists don't believe they are literally in The Truman Show. Most instead believe that the movie played a much more subtle, yet perhaps even more critical role. These conspiracy theorists argue that The Truman Show serves as a form of predictive programming, subtly preparing society for the increasing surveillance and manipulation in modern life. The film's depiction of constant surveillance and hidden cameras highlights concerns over the growing presence of surveillance technologies, social media, and data collection. Proponents of this theory suggest that the film desensitized viewers to the notion of being constantly watched. This in turn encouraged acceptance of modern-day surveillance by governments and corporations. Further, they argue that reality TV and then live streaming became more widespread after the film's release, which some argue were the next steps in this predictive programming propaganda campaign. Gareth Williams was a 31-year-old Welsh mathematician and a senior analyst at Government Communications Headquarters and seconded to MI6 in London. Gareth was known for his exceptional skills in code breaking and cybersecurity. Williams' body was found on August 23, 2010, in his Pimlico, London apartment, a week after he had last been seen alive. He was reported missing by his family and his employers at GCHQ, but MI6 did not raise the alarm immediately. Williams was found in a red North Face duffel bag, padlocked from the outside, placed in the bathtub of his apartment. His decomposing body complicated the determination of the exact cause of death, leading to numerous speculations and extensive investigations. The Metropolitan Police and a subsequent inquest led by coroner Fiona Wilcox ruled that the circumstances were suspicious and likely involved a third party. Despite this, The Metropolitan Police later concluded that Williams had most probably locked himself in the bag accidentally. This conclusion was controversial, given the testimony of experts who failed to replicate locking themselves inside a similar bag, despite numerous attempts. The bag's state and the position of Williams' body indicated he was likely alive when placed in the bag. Experts stated it was improbable that he could have locked himself in the bag without assistance. Moreover, the absence of defensive wounds or signs of struggle further complicated the accidental death theory. The inquest highlighted several inconsistencies suggesting another person's involvement. Some more lurid media reports focused on Williams' visits to illicit websites and the presence of women's clothing in his apartment. The coroner dismissed these as unrelated to his passing, suggesting media manipulation to divert from more plausible explanations involving his professional life. No fingerprints or DNA traces were found on the bag or padlock, and the flat appeared to have been cleaned of evidence. Williams' phone was found restored to factory settings, indicating possible tampering. Some speculate that Williams might have been targeted due to his work. A former KGB agent claimed that Russian intelligence might have been involved, potentially attempting to recruit Williams as a double agent or to protect their own operatives. The delayed reporting of Williams' absence by MI6, the contaminated evidence, and the restricted access to his colleagues and work materials have fueled conspiracy theories. Williams' family has strongly criticized MI6's handling of the case and the unusual delay in the reporting of his absence. Despite multiple investigations, the exact circumstances surrounding his death are unresolved. On April 14, 1561, the skies above Nuremberg, Germany, were filled with strange and terrifying celestial objects. This sighting is what many modern UFO researchers consider one of the most significant early sightings of UFOs. At dawn, the citizens of Nuremberg witnessed what appeared to be an aerial battle between various shapes, including spheres, cylinders, and crosses. This was followed by the appearance of a massive, black triangular object, which also engaged in combat. Notably, the phenomenon was not only aerial, but some of the objects were shot down and were observed by witnesses. Unlike other older UFO events, which are based on scant information and debatable interpretations of text, this event was published in full illustrated detail in a contemporary newspaper. This paper described this event in dramatic terms, noting how numerous men and women witnessed the sight and giving their accounts of the event. Notably, given the wide circulation of this newspaper in the city of Nuremberg itself, theorists argue that the event must have accorded with the reality of the day, and the event was widely discussed. Some religious interpretations focused on the crosses in the sky as symbols of divine intervention, while others saw the entire event as a warning or a manifestation of heavenly forces. Modern interpretations of the 1561 Nuremberg event vary significantly. Many Fox Mulder types believe this to be one of the earliest and most clear-cut examples of extraterrestrial visitation or a UFO battle. And full disclosure for all of you, when it comes to this case, I want to believe. The event is also cited as proof that humans have been witnessing unidentified aerial phenomena for centuries, long before modern technology could explain these occurrences. Skeptics, however, offer alternative explanations for the Nuremberg sighting. One of the most popular theories is that the event was caused by atmospheric phenomena, particularly a type of optical effect known as a sundog. Sundogs are bright spots that appear on either side of the sun, often creating the illusion of additional lights or objects in the sky. This phenomenon, along with other optical effects such as halos, could account for the multiple shapes and colors described in the broadsheet. I'm going to take a moment to openly editorialize on the quote-unquote sundog theory. All other cases of sundog phenomenon have looked entirely different than the illustration on screen right now. If you're just listening right now, you may also want to look at what a sundog actually looks like and compare the two images. Further, the sundog theory fails to account for the reported crashing of these objects into the areas surrounding Nuremberg. Skeptics also argue that the Nuremberg event may have been a case of mass hysteria. This is a psychological phenomenon in which a large group of people simultaneously experience delusions or hallucinations due to collective stress or fear. The 16th century in the Holy Roman Empire was an extremely tumultuous time, marked by religious tensions and wars. These societal pressures may have primed the citizens of Nuremberg to misinterpret natural atmospheric events as something supernatural or threatening. This theory suggests that the battle in the sky could have been a shared hallucination, where people influenced each other's perceptions. The vivid descriptions of the event, including crosses, spheres, and cylinders, may have been the result of cognitive bias, as individuals tried to make sense of unfamiliar natural phenomena. The religious and superstitious context of the time likely amplified these interpretations, leading to a shared belief that they were witnessing a divine or celestial event. Another theory purports that the Nuremberg event was indeed real, but that it was a sighting of biblically accurate angels. In many biblical texts, angels are described as awe-inspiring, radiant figures descending from the sky, often accompanied by bright lights and celestial imagery. For example, in the book of Ezekiel, the prophet describes seeing wheels within wheels and bright glowing figures, which he interpreted as angelic beings. Similarly, in the Nuremberg sighting, witnesses reported seeing spherical and cylindrical objects, which could be viewed as reminiscent of these wheels and otherworldly figures. Importantly, this case is extremely hard to dismiss given the body of evidence surrounding it, and everyone accepts that high strangeness occurred in the skies over Nuremberg on April 14, 1561. Kali Yuga is a significant concept in Hindu cosmology, representing the fourth and final age in the cycle of 4 ages. Each of these ages is marked by a gradual decline in morality, spirituality, and righteousness. According to traditional Hindu texts, such as the Mahabharata, the Kali Yuga is characterized by darkness, chaos, and moral degradation. It is widely believed that humanity is currently living in Kali Yuga, which began in 3102 BC, following the departure of the deity Krishna from Earth. This era is defined by the breakdown of social structures, the deterioration of dharma, a concept usually defined as moral law, and the rise of materialism, dishonesty, and selfishness. The ongoing age is sometimes referred to as the Age of Quarrel, due to its focus on conflict and disharmony. Ancient Hindu scriptures predict that during this age, people will become more inclined toward self-centeredness, neglecting their duties and responsibilities toward family, community, and the divine. As dharma diminishes, people are thought to reject spiritual growth and find other methods to satisfy themselves. Another key aspect of Kali Yuga is its cyclical nature. Hindu cosmology is based on the belief that time and history repeat in cycles. After the conclusion of Kali Yuga, the world will be renewed with the arrival of a new Krita Yuga, symbolizing a return to an age of righteousness and spiritual purity. This renewal will be brought about by the prophesied appearance of an avatar of the god Vishnu, who will come to cleanse the world of its accumulated evils and restore dharma. In some texts, it is said that Siddhartha, also known as the Buddha, appeared in this era to teach nonviolence and counteract the growing misuse of religious teachings. As the concept has spread and interacted with non-Indian religious traditions, other figures have also been associated with countering Kali Yuga, including Jesus Christ. Although Kali Yuga is described as a time of suffering and moral decay, it is not devoid of hope. Hindu scriptures emphasize that even in the darkest times, individuals have the potential to achieve spiritual liberation. While there are numerous different interpretations as to how this can be achieved, virtually all interpretations suggest this involves some sort of detachment from the material world. Many conspiracy theorists believe that the concept of Kali Yuga is hidden from the general population by the elites, to keep them wrapped up in the materialism that defines the age. Theorists are quick to note that the materialism as a driving force of capitalism and the philosophical concept of materialism share the same word. They suggest that the material age of Kali Yuga, where spirituality declines, directly leads to the increase in the mindless consumption and spending associated with the modern world. This in turn keeps the populace morally weak through an ever-increasing positive feedback loop of consumption. The conspiracy theories surrounding the killing of Tomoko Takekawa. On the morning of March 10, 1959, an office worker found the body of a woman floating near the Miyashita Bridge over the Zenpukuji River in Tokyo's Suginami Ward. Initially suspected of drowning due to the absence of visible injuries and her missing shoes, an autopsy later indicated she might have been strangled, evidenced by marks on her neck. Fluids from 2 individuals were also detected, prompting a deeper investigation into her acquaintances. The deceased was identified as Tomoko Takekawa, a 27-year-old flight attendant from Ashiya City in Hyogo Prefecture. Raised Catholic, she moved to Tokyo for nursing school before working as a nurse in Ashiya and then returning to Tokyo. She transitioned careers to become a stewardess for the British Overseas Airway Corporation, thanks to her uncle's influence in the company. Takekawa was selected from among 300 applicants and was set to commence her first flight on March 13, 1959, but she disappeared after attending a birthday party on March 8th. Belgian-born Louis Charles Vermeersch, a Catholic priest, emerged as a suspect after Takekawa's notebook entries, and a parcel linked him to her. Despite undergoing questioning and displaying signs of physical stress, Vermeersch denied any romantic involvement with Takekawa, stating their meeting was purely for consultation. However, police found evidence suggesting a prior relationship. Witnesses reported sightings of Vermeersch around the time of Takekawa's disappearance. Despite these allegations, Vermeersch's alibis, provided by church members, were met with skepticism. Just days before a scheduled police interview, Vermeersch left Japan on an Air France flight, claiming church orders and a desire to visit his aging parents. His departure left many questions unanswered, and despite never being formally charged, the cloud of suspicion never fully lifted. Vermeersch lived out his life in Canada, passing away in 2017 without making public comments on the case. Tomoko Takekawa's slaying remains unsolved, and it was officially closed by the police in 1974. Some conspiracy theorists have argued that the true nature of the case was covered up given Vermeersch's profession and affiliations. The Paul is dead theory is one of the most infamous and enduring conspiracy theories in music history. It posits that Paul McCartney, the legendary Beatle, died in a car crash in 1966 and was secretly replaced by a look-alike. This theory first emerged in the late 1960s and quickly captivated the public, gaining momentum through a series of supposed clues embedded in songs, album covers, and appearances. The rumors surrounding McCartney's death first surfaced in 1969, although speculations about his well-being began earlier. In December 1965, McCartney was involved in a moped accident, leading to minor injuries, which prompted worries about his health and use of a body double. A second wave of rumors followed in 1967, when some speculated that a car accident had killed McCartney. but these claims did not gain widespread traction at the time. The theory exploded into public consciousness in October 1969 when a caller named Tom phoned Detroit radio station WKNR-FM and informed disc jockey Russ Gibb of McCartney's passing. The caller urged Gibb to play the Beatles' song Revolution 9 backward, claiming it revealed the message, "Turn me on, dead man." The strange audio discovery stirred up significant interest, and soon after, a student from the University of Michigan published a satirical article discussing the theory. In this article, he dissected the Beatles' Abbey Road album cover as evidence of McCartney's death. This article, titled "McCartney Dead: New Evidence Brought to Light," was taken far more seriously than the author intended, and newspapers across the United States began reporting on it. As the rumors snowballed after October 1969, the story became an international sensation. Radio stations across the United States began to discuss the theory, with some disc jockeys dedicating entire shows to dissecting Beatles songs for hidden clues. To put it in our modern context, the theory went viral, and every content creator had to pile on to get a piece of the action. The theory suggests that the Beatles, along with their management and the British government, covered up McCartney's death to avoid mass hysteria and protect the band's profitability. The replacement, supposedly a Scottish orphan named Billy Shears, was selected due to his striking resemblance to McCartney and his similar musical abilities. Fans believe that the Beatles left numerous cryptic clues about McCartney's passing in their albums as a way of confessing to the public without directly addressing the issue. Proponents of the theory pointed to an apparent wealth of evidence hidden in Beatles lyrics, album artwork, and promotional materials. The most prominent source of these clues is the Beatles' Abbey Road album cover, released in 1969, which supposedly contains numerous visual hints of McCartney's death. On the cover, McCartney is the only member of the band walking barefoot, and he is out of step with the other three band members. Conspiracy theorists interpreted this as a subtle symbol of death. Additionally, they claimed the procession of Lennon in white, Starr in black, and Harrison in denim represented a priest, undertaker, and gravedigger, respectively. The album Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band also became a focus of intense scrutiny. Fans pointed to the cover's inclusion of a floral arrangement resembling a bass guitar and the presence of a hand hovering above McCartney's head. Additionally, fans claimed that if you play the final moments of Strawberry Fields Forever backward, John Lennon can be heard saying, "I buried Paul." On October 10, 1969, the band's press officer, Derek Taylor, issued a statement denying that McCartney had died, but this only seemed to stoke the flames of speculation. Meanwhile, McCartney's relative silence during this period added fuel to the fire. He had retreated to his farm in Scotland with his family, partly due to the stress of the Beatles' impending breakup, as well as the birth of his daughter, Mary. The theory gained such viral traction that by November 1969, McCartney was forced to come out of seclusion to address the rumors head-on. In an interview with Life magazine in that month, he advised that the rumors were stupid, and he was in seclusion because he had gone through 10 years of constant extreme fame. While Paul was initially miffed by the theory, he eventually came around and found the humor in it. In 1993, McCartney released a live album titled Paul is Live, mocking the theory's absurdity. The album's cover, which mimicked the Abbey Road image, featured McCartney walking his dog and standing out of step with the dog. However, there's another less well-known conspiracy theory related to the theory. Some argue that the entire conspiracy was a psyop orchestrated by intelligence agencies or other powerful entities. One argument for the theory as a psyop is the timing of its emergence during the 1960s, a period marked by widespread countercultural movements and distrust of government institutions. The Beatles, as cultural and countercultural icons, held immense influence over youth, and the spread of such a sensational conspiracy could have been used to discredit the counterculture. According to this interpretation of the theory, the Paul is dead theory actually depicted the Beatles as yet another arm of the establishment. Thus, they were portrayed as being in collusion with corporations and the British government, making those in the counterculture wary of influential figures like John Lennon and George Harrison. Another potentially less sinister theory is that the entire thing was orchestrated to take attention off the impending breakup of the band. Alternatively, some argue that the Paul is dead theory was cooked up to ensure ongoing interest in the band in wake of what insiders knew was a definite breakup by October 1969. In the late 19th century, the United States was gripped by a phenomenon that would become known as the mystery airship wave of 1896 to 1897. This period marked one of the first major UFO waves in American history, occurring a decade before the Wright brothers' first flight. The sightings began in California in 1896 and quickly spread eastward, generating thousands of reports from citizens across the country. These accounts ranged from simple observations of unexplained lights in the night sky to detailed descriptions of blimp-like vessels carrying human-like occupants. Some witnesses even reported interactions with these beings who occasionally claimed to be from Mars. The majority of sightings were reported as nighttime encounters with unidentified lights, with more elaborate narratives describing airships comparable to contemporary dirigibles. This widespread nature of the sightings contributed to the mystery and intrigue surrounding the phenomenon. The reports peaked in two phases: the initial wave in California in late 1896, and a subsequent wave across the central and eastern U.S. in the spring of 1897. Public reaction to these sightings was mixed, with responses ranging from awe and fascination to skepticism and outright dismissal. Many accounts were later attributed to misidentifications of celestial objects, such as planets and stars, or dismissed as hoaxes and practical jokes. Some believed the airships were secret experiments by inventors or the government, the theory going that these airships were prototypes. Others saw them as evidence of extraterrestrial visitation, which at the time largely consisted of Martian visitors, reflecting the sensibilities of the time. In addition to the fantastical accounts and hoaxes, the airship sightings were a media sensation, with newspapers across the country reporting on the phenomenon with varying degrees of credibility. Some papers sensationalized the sightings, while others aimed to debunk them through rational explanations or demonstrations of how easily the public could be fooled. Interestingly, the day before the first sightings in California, a newspaper called the Sacramento Bee published an article about an inventor from New York. This inventor was allegedly planning to fly from New York to California to show off his new invention. This event may have set in motion the first sightings, with many additional sightings being driven by mass hysteria over airships. Some proponents of the predictive programming theory believe these sightings were more than mere hoaxes or mass hysteria. Instead, they suggest that these airships were early examples of predictive programming, a method allegedly used by elites to prepare the public for future technologies and events. In the case of the mystery airship wave, the appearance of advanced flying machines at a time when aviation technology was still in its infancy could be seen as a precursor to the development of aircraft. According to this theory, these sightings may have served to introduce the concept of flight to the public consciousness, allowing the population to gradually accept the idea of routine manned air travel. Proponents of this theory note that Ferdinand Zeppelin had just patented the concept of the airship in Germany in 1895. Some theorists expand on this idea further, suggesting that this was part of a campaign to increase acceptance around UFOs using the newly invented airships of Graf Zeppelin. Joe Rogan, host of The Joe Rogan Experience, is one of the most polarizing and popular figures in modern media. With a career spanning from stand-up comedy to UFC commentary and podcasting, Rogan has built a massive following. Notably, a large portion of his following are men who admire his blend of skepticism, curiosity, and open-mindedness, with what many consider a very masculine persona. However, as his popularity grew, so too did his detractors, particularly on social media platforms like Reddit, where users often express intense criticism and outright disdain for Rogan. The argument claims that Reddit, often portrayed as a bastion of what may be best described as unmasculine men, serves as the perfect breeding ground for this PR strategy. The theory suggests that by encouraging these unmasculine men to vocally express their disdain for Rogan, the PR campaign creates a reverse psychology effect. That is to say, appealing to men who want to distance themselves from the Reddit soyjack archetype and assert their own masculinity by aligning with Rogan. According to this theory, Joe Rogan, who discusses everything from physical fitness to philosophy on his podcast, embodies a version of masculinity that is both primal and intellectual. He lifts weights, engages in martial arts, hunts, and eats a largely carnivorous diet, all while being curious and open-minded enough to discuss the nature of consciousness or the Mongol Empire. In other words, Rogan offers a template for modern masculinity that many men find aspirational. However, for every admirer, there are detractors, and nowhere is this more evident than on Reddit. Reddit has also garnered a reputation as a platform dominated by young, progressive, and often socially awkward men. These men may be more likely to reject traditional gender roles, and as a result, they find Joe Rogan's brand of masculinity antiquated, simplistic, or even quote-unquote toxic. Thus, Reddit becomes the perfect stage for this conspiracy theory to play out. In essence, the more these Reddit users hate on Rogan, the more attractive he becomes to men who aspire to be everything these Reddit users are not. This type of reverse psychology taps into a fundamental aspect of human nature. People are often motivated by the desire to differentiate themselves from others. When Rogan's critics, especially those on Reddit, lambast him for being toxic, they inadvertently signal to another group that Rogan represents the kind of man they want to be. In an era where identities are deeply intertwined with one's public persona, aligning with or against Rogan becomes a way to telegraph one's masculinity, or lack thereof. The idea that hatred or controversy can be used as a marketing tactic is not new. In fact, many brands, celebrities, and public figures have thrived on controversy because it generates attention. As the saying goes, there's no such thing as bad publicity. That said, there's no direct evidence whatsoever for this theory, but if you've made it this far in the series, you should be used to that by now. The term lost cosmonauts refers to a theory suggesting that the Soviet Union may have concealed failed missions involving cosmonauts during the early years of the space race. The conspiracy theory first gained traction in the early 1960s. Proponents argue that several cosmonauts embarked on space missions before Yuri Gagarin's historic flight in April 1961, but their missions ended in disaster. Among the alleged lost cosmonauts is Vladimir Ilyushin, a test pilot and son of a famed aircraft designer. According to some accounts, Ilyushin orbited Earth days before Gagarin, but crash-landed in China and was subsequently kept in secrecy by both governments. A significant element fueling the lost cosmonaut theory involves two Italian amateur radio operators. They claim to have intercepted distress signals and communications from several doomed Soviet missions. Notably, they reported picking up an SOS signal in 1960 from a spacecraft moving away from Earth, indicating a possible failed mission launched into deep space. The most chilling of their recordings was purportedly from a female cosmonaut who described seeing flames and experiencing extreme heat, suggesting a re entry failure. Despite these dramatic accounts, many experts and historians regard the Italian recordings as hoaxes or psyops, noting inconsistencies and lack of corroborating evidence. Another incident that has been linked to the lost cosmonaut theory is the 1960 Nedelin catastrophe. This was a massive explosion on a launch pad that killed numerous technicians and personnel. While officially acknowledged as a non-crewed mission, some believe there were cosmonauts involved. Another frequently cited event is the mysterious Korabel Sputnik 1 mission in 1960. Officially an unmanned test, science fiction writer Robert Heinlein reported meeting Soviet defectors who suggested it was manned. However, the spacecraft lacked a re-entry shield, making the claim that it carried cosmonauts highly dubious. The Soviet Union's notorious secrecy during the Cold War provides fertile ground for such theories. Early space missions were often conducted in secrecy, and failures were typically not disclosed to the public. For instance, Valentin Bondarenko, part of the first group of cosmonauts, died in a training accident in 1961. His death was covered up for years, adding to the narrative of concealed cosmonaut fatalities. Another example is Grigory Nelyubov, a top cosmonaut who was dismissed from the program under mysterious circumstances. Nelyubov was subsequently deleted from official photographs and records, clearly indicating the existence of some conspiracy. His dismissal and subsequent tragic end fueled further speculation about the fate of other cosmonauts, who may have suffered similar fates. Despite the compelling stories and alleged recordings, the lost cosmonaut theory remains largely unsubstantiated. Extensive research into declassified Soviet records has not corroborated these claims. However, there remains the possibility that records were destroyed in the interest of national security. On November 9, 1965, at approximately 5:15 p.m., a significant portion of the northeastern United States and parts of Canada were plunged into darkness. This affected over 30 million people in an area spanning 80,000 square miles. This event, known as the Northeast Blackout of 1965, stands as one of the most significant power failures in North American history. The blackout began with a small human error, a misconfigured relay at the Sir Adam Beck station on the Ontario side of the Niagara River. This seemingly minor issue at a single power station led to a series of failures throughout a power grid that was heavily interconnected and reliant on each station maintaining its load. As demand peaked during the early evening hours, the error caused a transmission line from the Niagara generating station to trip, setting off a domino effect. Within seconds, power stations across Ontario and the northeastern United States were overwhelmed, leading to widespread outages. The immediate effects were dramatic and far-reaching. In New York City, over 800,000 people were trapped in the subway system, while thousands more were stuck in elevators across the affected areas. Airports were shut down, and, in the era before widespread cellular communication, the lack of information led to confusion and anxiety. Despite the widespread disruption, the response to the blackout was notably calm and orderly. In New York City, for example, citizens directed traffic and helped emergency services. The event was marked by a spontaneous spirit of cooperation that prevented any major crises during the hours without power. This reaction was later highlighted as a testament to the resilience and community spirit of the affected populations. One of the most fascinating aspects of the 1965 blackout was the range of theories and mysteries that emerged regarding its cause. While the blackout is now officially considered solved, there are still numerous conspiracy theories surrounding the blackout. During the Cold War era, the idea that sabotage could be a cause was taken seriously. The FBI investigated the possibility that the blackout could have been deliberately caused as an act of espionage or sabotage by foreign agents. Others speculated that geomagnetic storms caused by solar flares might have interfered with the Earth's magnetic field, inducing currents that tripped the power lines and equipment. At the more extreme end of the spectrum, there were claims linking the blackout to unidentified flying objects. These stories were fueled by concurrent sightings of strange lights in the sky, which were later attributed to increased public awareness and vigilance in the dark, starlit skies of the blackout-affected area. Subsequent investigations by the Federal Power Commission pointed squarely to the relay setting error and the vulnerabilities in the power grid's design. It highlighted the need for better coordination and fail-safes within the interconnected systems. In the wake of the blackout, there were significant changes in how power systems were managed across North America. The event led to the establishment of more rigorous standards for grid management, including the formation of the North American Electric Reliability Corporation. This corporation was tasked with enhancing the reliability and security of the bulk power system in the US and Canada. Whether this event happened as the official histories said or not is up to you to interpret. The development of the Internet is closely tied to DARPA, the Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency, a U.S. Department of Defense agency known for its advanced defense projects. DARPA played a crucial role in creating the fundamental technologies that would evolve into the modern Internet. Also, just a quick note so I don't get a million comments. I'll be referring to DARPA as such throughout, even though it was known as ARPA for the early portion of its existence. The roots of the Internet can be traced back to the early 1960s, when J.C.R. Licklider of MIT conceptualized a, quote, intergalactic network of computers that could communicate with one another. His ideas were fundamental in shaping the direction of computer networking, and they became actionable when he joined DARPA in 1962. Under his leadership, DARPA initiated the development of technologies aimed at connecting computers across various locations to share information and resources. ARPANET, the precursor to the Internet, emerged from DARPA's need to create a network that could survive potential disruptions, such as nuclear strikes. At the time, traditional circuit switch networks, like the telephone system, were not resilient enough for military needs. DARPA, leveraging the concept of packet switching, pioneered by Paul Baran at RAND and Donald Davies in the UK, proposed a more robust communication model. Packet switching allowed data to be broken into smaller pieces, or packets, that could be sent independently over various paths before being reassembled at their destinations. In 1969, ARPA initiated the creation of ARPANET by connecting 4 universities, UCLA, Stanford, UCSB, and the University of Utah. This network used packet switching technology and became the first wide area network, marking the start of what would eventually become the Internet. As ARPANET expanded, it became clear that the system needed a standardized protocol to manage the growing number of connected networks. In the early 1970s, researchers working under DARPA developed the Transmission Control Protocol, TCP, and Internet Protocol, IP. These protocols, collectively known as TCP/IP, enabled disparate networks to communicate with one another, laying the groundwork for the Internet. TCP/IP allowed for the successful transmission of data between multiple independent networks, regardless of their underlying technologies, thus creating a network of networks. In the 1980s, DARPA's involvement in the Internet's evolution continued to be instrumental, particularly through collaborations with the National Science Foundation. The NSF net, established in 1986, created high-speed links between several U.S. universities, further accelerating the adoption of TCP/IP and making the Internet accessible to academic institutions worldwide. This period also marked the beginning of commercial Internet development, as companies started to recognize the potential of this technology for business and communication. DARPA was also involved in pioneering research that led to the development of systems which are the foundation of the World Wide Web. Conspiracy theorists have unsurprisingly crafted many theories around the development of ARPANET. Perhaps the most prominent conspiracy is that ARPANET laid the groundwork for a vast surveillance system capable of tracking and monitoring global communications. Conspiracy theorists argue that ARPANET's association with the Department of Defense signals its true intent: to create a powerful tool for government control. They claim that while ARPANET was publicly presented as a project to facilitate research and communication, the underlying motive was to enable real-time monitoring of information flow. DARPA's involvement, with its close ties to the military and intelligence communities, is cited as evidence that it was the beginning of a state-controlled information grid. One central tenet of this conspiracy theory is the belief that ARPANET's architecture was designed with surveillance capabilities in mind. Some claim the decentralized nature of the network, which routes data through multiple paths and nodes, is claimed to allow the government to track communications more efficiently. Conspiracists argue that packet switching was perfect for surveillance because it enabled data to be broken down into small packets and transmitted through multiple points. This potentially allowed monitoring at any one of these junctures. Another aspect of this conspiracy revolves around DARPA's influence over private technology companies. According to this theory, DARPA collaborated with and funded big tech corporations to embed surveillance mechanisms into the hardware and software that underpin the modern Internet. This network of collaboration is argued by conspiracy theorists as a way for DARPA to covertly implement surveillance technologies into everyday communication systems. Peking Man, a crucial discovery in the history of human evolution, was found in the Zhoukoudian cave system near Beijing during the 1920s and 1930s. These fossils, dubbed Peking Man, have become one of the most significant paleoanthropological finds. The first discovery at Zhoukoudian was made in 1921 when a human tooth was unearthed by Austrian paleontologist Otto Zadansky. Further excavations revealed an array of fossils, including skull fragments, jaws, and limb bones, belonging to more than 40 individuals. These remains were eventually classified as Homo erectus pekinensis, a subspecies of Homo erectus that lived roughly between 200 and 800,000 years ago. These fossils showed that Peking Man had a brain capacity smaller than modern humans, but larger than earlier hominids. The Zhoukoudian site yielded over 100,000 stone tools, evidence of fire use, and possible signs of communal living. These findings suggested that Peking Man was a hunter-gatherer with the ability to adapt to the harsh conditions of northern China during the glacial periods. Despite ongoing debates, it is widely believed that these early humans had some form of social structure and were capable of controlling fire. In 1941, with the Japanese invasion of China escalating, there was a growing concern for the safety of the Peking Man fossils. American and Chinese scientists decided to transport the fossils to the United States for safekeeping. They packed the fossils into 2 large crates, which were supposed to be shipped from the Marine base at Qinhuangdao to the U.S. The crates disappeared en route, and their fate has remained one of the great mysteries in the field of paleoanthropology. Multiple theories have surfaced over the years. One conspiracy theory, particularly popular in China, but not well known in the West, is the idea that the Peking Man fossils showed humanity arose out of China rather than out of Africa. This conspiracy theory generally suggests that the bones were intentionally destroyed by the Americans to cover up this fact. One suggests that the crates were lost at sea after the ship transporting them was sunk by a submarine. Another posits that the crates were captured by Japanese soldiers and the bones either destroyed or lost in the chaos of war. Yet another theory, spurred by an account from the son of a U.S. Marine, suggests that the bones may still be buried beneath a parking lot in Qinhuangdao. The Peking man fossil's disappearance has led to a slew of investigations, some involving official agencies like the FBI, and others taking more unconventional routes, such as employing psychics. Despite numerous expeditions and studies, the actual location of the fossils remains unknown. In March 2022, the famous Seisho Seki, or Killing Stone, split in half, igniting a wave of anxiety and superstition across Japan and the internet. The Killing Stone, located in the volcanic mountains of Nasu, Tochigi Prefecture, has long been a symbol of Japanese folklore. According to legend, the stone imprisoned the spirit of Tamamo no Mae, a nine-tailed fox who had caused chaos in the court of Emperor Toba by disguising herself as a beautiful woman. After her deception was discovered, she was slain, and her vengeful spirit was said to have been sealed within the stone. It was believed that anyone who touched the stone would suffer from a variety of maladies, further cementing its ominous reputation. The sudden splitting of the stone was initially attributed to natural causes, particularly the weathering and cracks observed in it over the years. Yet, this practical explanation did little to calm fears, as many saw the event as an ominous sign. Some believed that the breaking of the stone symbolized the release of the fox spirit, raising concerns about potential misfortunes to come. While some skeptics initially dismissed the cultural importance of the Killing Stone and attempted to claim that this was media sensationalism, this is simply not true. The Killing Stone has played a significant role in Japanese culture and literature for centuries. Notably, the famous Edo-era poet Matsuo Basho wrote about a visit to the stone in the 17th century, which is thought to have enhanced the mystique and cultural significance around it. Following the stone's break, local officials acted quickly to appease the spirits associated with it. A ceremony was held by Shinto priests, who offered prayers and performed traditional rites in an effort to pacify any malevolent forces that might have been released. The local government even expressed plans to restore the stone to its original form, not only to maintain its historical significance, but also to quell the fears sparked by the break. In late 2020, a series of mysterious monoliths began appearing around the world. These metal structures are reminiscent of those depicted in Stanley Kubrick's 1968 film, 2001: A Space Odyssey. They first garnered attention when a 12-foot tall monolith was discovered in Utah's Red Rock Desert by a helicopter crew on a routine mission to count bighorn sheep. The monolith, firmly planted in the ground, stood out starkly against the desert landscape, and its origins were unknown, prompting widespread curiosity and a flurry of online theories. Following the Utah discovery, similar monoliths began to surface globally. One appeared in Romania on Batka Domene Hill, notable for its circular engravings, only to disappear soon after, much like its Utah counterpart. The phenomenon quickly gained momentum, with sightings reported in California, Texas, Pennsylvania, and New Mexico, among other places. Each monolith varied slightly in design, but maintained a consistent, reflective metal appearance. The appearance of these monoliths led to a variety of theories. Some speculated that they were part of a global art installation. This theory gained traction when the art collective The Most Famous Artist claimed responsibility for the Utah monolith, offering replicas for sale at $45,000 each. They suggested the monoliths were an art stunt, designed to capture public attention and evoke a sense of mystery and wonder. However, not all monoliths could be attributed to the most famous artist. A monolith found on the Isle of Wight in the UK was placed by a local designer, Tom Dunford, as a playful tribute to the ongoing phenomenon. Another in Atascadero, California, was erected by a group of guerrilla artists, but was quickly dismantled by locals. The decentralized and spontaneous nature of these installations indicated that multiple groups or individuals were involved, inspired by the initial Utah discovery. The materials and construction methods of the monoliths further fueled speculation. While some were clearly man-made with visible welds and tool marks, their sudden and unexplained appearances led to conjecture about extraterrestrial involvement or secret governmental projects. The Utah monolith was also speculated to be a leftover movie prop due to the region's history as a filming location for numerous Hollywood productions. Despite these theories, no definitive proof has emerged linking the monoliths to any single source or purpose. The global spread of monoliths included locations as far-flung as Japan, Norway, Bolivia, and New Zealand. Each sighting attracted media coverage and public interest, with some installations even becoming local tourist attractions before their eventual removal. The craze died down in 2021, and it appears that no further monoliths have been seen since. Hey everyone, it's Jimmy once again. Just another quick reminder to like, subscribe, and also share this video with your friends. Sharing the video with your friends and family is one of the best ways you can help my channel grow. And the best part is it's totally free and only takes a second. Just click the share button and send it along to anyone who you think would be curious about the topics discussed in this video. The conspiracy theory that Tupac Shakur is still alive has persisted for nearly 3 decades, fueled by a mix of circumstantial evidence, sightings, and cryptic messages in his music. According to promoters of this conspiracy, the most significant piece of circumstantial evidence is the cremation and missing body. After Tupac was shot on September 7, 1996, he was reportedly cremated the next day, and his body was never publicly seen again. Suge Knight, the CEO of Death Row Records, who was with Tupac when he was shot, has expressed skepticism that the man cremated was Tupac. He has claimed that the man who cremated Tupac disappeared with a substantial amount of money and was never heard from again. This does not appear to have been independently verified in any way. Adding to the mystery is Tupac's posthumous album, The Don Killuminati, The 7-Day Theory, released under the pseudonym Machiavelli. The album cover depicted Tupac as Jesus Christ, hinting at resurrection. Some fans also point to hidden messages in his lyrics and album artwork as evidence that Tupac planned his escape. For example, in the song I Ain't Hard to Find, he raps about rumors of his death being exaggerated. However, critics of this theory note that his lyrics contained references to his own mortality for years before his death. Since his death, Tupac has released more albums posthumously than when he was alive. This prolific output has led some to believe that Tupac continues to record in secret. Lyrics in these albums, such as his repeated claims of returning like Jesus, have been interpreted as hints at his survival. One of the most popular theories is that Tupac escaped to Cuba, and unlike the other theories, there is circumstantial evidence to suggest this is theoretically possible. This theory is supported by his connections to Assata Shakur, his aunt who has lived in Cuba since escaping from a U.S. prison in 1979. Cuba, with its strained relations with the U.S., is seen as an ideal hideout for someone looking to disappear permanently. Suge Knight's son has also made claims of Tupac being alive, suggesting that he lives in Malaysia and still produces new music. Another, even more fringe theory suggests that Tupac escaped the United States to live in Serbia, of all places. Shadow people, also known as shadow figures or black masses, are perceived as shadowy humanoid figures that have been reported across cultures and time. The concept of shadow people is not new and can be traced back to ancient folklore and religious texts. In many cultures, shadowy figures are associated with the supernatural. For instance, in ancient Egyptian mythology, shadow figures were considered part of a person's soul. Similarly, in Native American beliefs, shadow beings are seen as spiritual entities that exist in a state of balance between light and darkness. Shadow people are typically described as dark, human like shapes that appear at the periphery of one's vision or directly in front. They often lack discernible features, though some reports include glowing red eyes. These encounters frequently occur at night and are sometimes associated with feelings of intense fear and paralysis. People often report seeing these figures during episodes of sleep paralysis, a condition where one is temporarily unable to move or speak while falling asleep or upon waking. One of the most well-known types of shadow people is the Hat Man, a figure seen wearing a brimmed hat and sometimes a cloak. Sightings of the Hat Man are often reported in conjunction with sleep paralysis and have been documented since the early 2000s. Another common narrative involves shadow figures appearing in haunted locations. For example, at the Eastern State Penitentiary in Pennsylvania, numerous sightings of shadowy entities have been reported by both visitors and paranormal investigators. Many psychologists suggest that shadow people are hallucinations resulting from sleep paralysis. During this state, individuals are partially awake but still dreaming, leading to vivid and often frightening hallucinations. Some theorists propose that shadow people are the astral bodies of individuals who are experiencing out-of-body experiences. According to this theory, what people see are the ephemeral forms of these travelers from another realm. Another theory posits that shadow people are entities from parallel dimensions that occasionally intersect with our own. This idea is supported by the belief in multiple dimensions existing alongside our own, where beings might cross over and become visible as shadows. The dark and often malevolent nature of shadow people has led some to believe they are demonic entities. These figures are thought to feed on fear and manifest to frighten individuals. A more speculative theory suggests that shadow people might be time travelers from the future. In this scenario, their shadowy appearance could be a result of the limitations of their time travel technology, making them visible only as shadows. Skeptics argue that shadow people can be explained by natural phenomena such as optical illusions, heightened imagination, or environmental factors like electromagnetic fields. The unusual ability of Girolamo Segato. Girolamo Segato was an Italian polymath born in 1792 in the Carthusian monastery of Vedana, located in northern Italy. His interests spanned various fields, including natural sciences, cartography, Egyptology, and anatomy. However, Segato is most famously known for his mysterious and unparalleled technique of artificially petrifying human remains. Segato's journey into the world of mummification began during his archaeological expeditions to Egypt in 1818. These experiences deeply influenced his later work, leading him to develop a method of preservation that went beyond traditional mummification techniques. Upon his return to Florence in 1823, Segato began experimenting with a unique process that effectively mineralized organic tissue, preserving it with remarkable detail and durability. His method allowed the preserved tissues to retain their original color, texture, and even cellular structure. an achievement that was both unprecedented and baffling to his contemporaries. One of the most notable aspects of Sagato's work was his ability to turn biological material into a stone-like substance. This process, often referred to as petrification, was so effective that the preserved specimens could be cut, polished, and used in various forms. A table in the royal palace of Caserta, for example, was crafted using this technique and remains a testament to Sagato's enigmatic skills. Despite the groundbreaking nature of his work, Sagato was highly secretive about his methods. He never documented the exact process, and all of his notes were destroyed before his passing in 1836. This decision has led to widespread speculation about the origins and nature of his technique. Some contemporaries and later commentators speculated that Sagato might have tapped into ancient Egyptian magic, a belief that only deepened the mystery surrounding his work. One of the few detailed accounts of Sagato's work comes from the American surgeon Valentine Mott, who visited Sagato in Florence. Mott was astonished by Sagato's ability to petrify organic materials, describing the results as nothing short of miraculous. Mott invited Sagato to the United States to demonstrate his process, but Sagato initially declined, and then reportedly demanded an exorbitant fee. Soon after, Mott received news that Sagato had passed away, taking the secrets of his technique with him to the grave. Sagato's legacy is preserved in the remnants of his work that survive today, primarily housed in the Museum of the Department of Anatomy in Florence. Some conspiracy theorists argue that the true nature of what he did was covered up upon his death. This theory suggests that an ancient secret group like the Freemasons or the Rosicrucians covered it up due to his access to mystical abilities they keep secret. The Black Dog Man is a figure associated with conspiracy theories surrounding the assassination of President John F. Kennedy on November 22, 1963. This figure appears in photographs taken by spectators Philip Willis and Hugh Betzner, specifically in images shot just moments before and after the fatal gunfire in Dealey Plaza. The Black Dog Man is named for the shadowy silhouette captured near the retaining wall at the edge of the grassy knoll. In the broader scope of JFK assassination theories, this shadowy figure has spurred numerous interpretations. Initially, the vague outline of what appeared to be a person behind the fence on the grassy knoll fed into the idea of a second shooter. For those who believe in a conspiracy, the Black Dog Man is potentially an accomplice hidden in the shadows. The interpretation of the figure's presence is particularly compelling because the grassy knoll has been a central focus of many alternative theories. Some conspiracy theorists argue that this individual could have been part of a larger team tasked with ensuring Kennedy's demise, likely coordinating with others positioned around Dealey Plaza. However, alternative explanations for the Black Dog Man also exist. Marilyn Sitzman, who worked in the plaza and witnessed the events of that day, suggested that the figure may have been part of a couple sitting near the retaining wall, eating lunch, and oblivious to the events. Furthermore, the photographic evidence of the figure is ambiguous at best. The exact nature of the silhouette, whether it is a person, an illusion caused by shadows, or something else entirely like a dog, remains uncertain. Some theorists also suggest that the Black Dog Man figure is simply a psyop to divert attention from more substantive allegations. Conspiracy theorists argue that focusing on such vague and poorly defined figures like the Black Dog Man distracts the public and investigators from more concrete evidence surrounding the day. By fixating on ambiguous photographic evidence of a shadowy figure, the narrative becomes diluted with speculative and often less credible theories. This diversion could effectively shift attention away from the more politically sensitive theories that implicate entities from the intelligence community, organized crime, or military-industrial complex. By introducing doubtful or hard-to-prove characters into the narrative, public discourse becomes fragmented, encouraging the dismissal of all conspiracy claims as outlandish. The Mayerling incident revolves around the tragic end of Crown Prince Rudolph of Austria and his lover, Baroness Mary Vetsera. Their bodies were discovered on January 30th, 1889, in a hunting lodge in Mayerling, a small village located in Austria. The official story presented by the imperial court initially attributed Rudolph's demise to a heart condition, but it quickly became apparent that there was much more to the story. Crown Prince Rudolph, the only son of Emperor Franz Joseph and Empress Elizabeth, was the heir apparent to the Austro-Hungarian throne. His personal life, however, was fraught with difficulties. Rudolph's marriage to Princess Stephanie of Belgium was strained, and he sought solace in numerous affairs, the most notable being with the Baroness Mary Vetsera. On January 29, 1889, Rudolph and Mary traveled to the Mayerling hunting lodge. The next morning, Rudolph's valet and his friend found the doors to Rudolph's rooms locked. Breaking in, they discovered Rudolph seated by the bed, with blood at his mouth, and Mary lifeless on the bed. The initial official narrative suggested that Rudolph had succumbed to a heart attack. However, this quickly changed when foreign correspondents uncovered details implicating Vetsera in his demise. The imperial court then suggested a pact, where Rudolph first ended Vetsera's life before his own. Several theories have emerged over the years to explain what truly happened at Mayerling. One of the more commonly accepted theories is that Rudolph and Mary entered a mutual ending pact due to Rudolph's despair over his personal and political situation. He had recently been pressured by his father to end his relationship with Vetsera and was reportedly in a state of mental imbalance. Another theory suggests that Rudolph may have had syphilis, which contributed to his declining mental state. This illness might have strained his marriage and his public duties, adding to his desperation. There are also numerous conspiracy theories which have arose over the years. One posits that Rudolph was slain as part of a political plot, possibly involving Vetsera's family or other political factions. This theory is partly fueled by inconsistencies in the official accounts and the rapid closure of the investigation. Empress Zita, the last Empress of Austria, suggested that Rudolph was killed due to his refusal to participate in a conspiracy against his father. This theory lacks substantial evidence, but persists in some discussions due to the mysterious nature of their deaths and the lack of transparency in the investigations that followed. The Mayerling incident had significant repercussions for the Austro-Hungarian Empire. With Rudolph's passing, the line of succession was disrupted, eventually leading to Archduke Franz Ferdinand becoming the heir presumptive. His assassination in 1914 was a catalyst for the outbreak of World War I, and if this little-known incident didn't occur, World War I may not have occurred as it did in our timeline. During the Cold War, Soviet cosmonauts faced significant danger after returning from space missions. Due to their descent area, there was significant possibility of landing in remote, inhospitable regions, including the vast wilderness of Siberia. In these areas, survival wasn't guaranteed, and threats from wildlife, particularly Eurasian brown bears and wolves, were a significant concern. To address this, Soviet cosmonauts were equipped with a weapon specifically designed for both self-defense and survival, the TP-82 shotgun. Officially, the origin of this decision dates back to an incident in 1965 when cosmonauts Alexei Leonov and Pavel Belyaev found themselves stranded in Siberia near the Ural Mountains. Their capsule had veered off course, and for 2 days they were isolated, surrounded by dense forest and facing the threat of wildlife. Though they had only a pistol at the time, The experience highlighted the need for a more robust survival weapon in case future cosmonauts found themselves in similar situations. The TP-82 became a standard issue for Soviet space missions from 1986 until 2007. The conspiracy theory surrounding the Soviet cosmonauts TP-82 argues that the weapon was not intended for defense against bears or wolves, but rather to engage extraterrestrial beings. Proponents of this theory argue that the weapon's presence on space missions goes beyond the practical need for survival in the Siberian wilderness. The idea stems from the unusual nature of the TP-82 itself. As a triple-barrel weapon, it was far more powerful than what would typically be required for most wildlife. One piece of evidence in favor of this theory is that the weapon was too powerful to bring aboard a spaceship unless it was absolutely necessary to have it there. If the TP-82 was accidentally discharged, the results would likely be catastrophic in terms of structural damage. If you like this video, please do me a huge favor and click the share button and send it to anyone who you think may enjoy it. Remember to like and subscribe and check out the Patreon or YouTube membership to support the channel further. Also, click the links in the description to check out my lazy chill lo-fi beats available on Spotify, Apple Music, and wherever else you stream music. Shout out to my patrons, Iced Mocha, Kurt the Squirt, Monoxide Wendigo, Jeffer Metcalf, Z-Volts, Courtney Hammett, Out of Gray's Mind, Zach Steele, Franz Tech, Unknown Delusions, Faye, Jack Russell, Boomslang, Spookiest Becky, Vespertine, Metanova, Will Roan, Crab Nebula, and Blasphemous.